Hi guys, here we are back on Astor Street on our infill job. Today we have got our concrete mason out here getting ready to lay out for the footings, which we should be scheduling for next week. We've got a lot of work that's been accomplished in this past week. I'd like to go over some of the items that have been completed and show you in more detail what we've done. Come along. As you can see, the full project has been completely excavated down to the basic foundation height. We ended up hauling 95 truckloads of fill out of here in the last 3 days. Our shoring walls have both been installed. Come on and I'll show you a little bit about those details. Here we can get up close and personal with the shoring wall that was installed to protect the basement of this house and the house to the south. If we recall, we drilled 35 to 40 foot holes and installed these steel beams. These members are called the lagging members. These are 2.5 inch thick boards, 12 inches tall, and cut down to the appropriate length to slide in between the beams. The whole south wall, we were able to put the boards flush with the beams. On the north side, since we're so close to the neighboring property, we had to put the beams, the wood boards, on the back. That was to allow the foundation contractor to put his forms up. If you come over here, you can see how close we are to the beams. This is the corner of our foundation. Our footing is going to be about 2 inches away from the pylon. The crew, when they're putting on the concrete forms, has to squeeze in between here. We put all these boards back so they would have a little more room to work on the wall as they're forming. One of the biggest reasons we needed to put this shoring system in was to protect the foundations of the neighboring properties. You can see this house to the north, the windows in the basement. Their floor is approximately 6 inches above that. Their basement floor is probably right around here. So their footings are right here. We would have had to come from that elevation on a 45-degree angle with our grade if we didn't put these walls in. That would not have worked because our house is right here. We would have had to excavate all the way over to here. During the lagging process, the ground behind these boards gets over excavated by a couple inches so they can slide the boards in easily. Milwaukee is known for their very, very hard, solid clay. So when we excavated down along this wall, the clay wall stayed intact. Sometimes that might not happen, it'll crumble, and you've got to be much more aggressive in installing these boards and getting them backfilled immediately as you work up. We were able to come back and backfill once we had all of them in at the full height. So that void behind these boards, approximately 2 to 3 inches, was then filled with some clay, but mostly this lean mix concrete. We're at the very back side of the lot right now. If you can see, we've got an elevation change in our grade of 2 feet. This was dug down deeper because this area is going to be a stair hole coming from the backyard down into the basement. Since the stairs are open on the inside, they do not have frost protection. So we had to dig another 2 feet deeper to make sure that the footings that supported the concrete walls had frost protection. This was a re-certification from our surveyor who was out on site this morning. He verified that we dug this whole entire area to the correct grade that we submitted with our building permit application months ago for the city of Milwaukee. He comes out, signs off on it, and I have to present this to the building inspector when the foundation contractor is ready to pour footings. That is their checks and balance system to make sure that all the building projects in Milwaukee are being installed per plan and per regulations. Earlier today, as I mentioned, our surveyor was on site to do the footing recertification. He also marked out an elevation stake for our foundation contractor. That will be top of footing elevation. He also threw in two corners. You can see the front corner of the house and the rear corner of the house. We did completely excavate our whole entire basement other than the front end. We left this ramp so we would have complete access to get all of our equipment in for installing the foundation. This area is going to have a drive down ramp to underground parking at a future date. But in order to do that correctly, we are going to have to come back and excavate and put in frost walls that are 4 foot below this elevation. With the length of this project, we wanted to keep some kind of staging area in this area as long as possible. So we are going to install the whole basement, all the footings, all the walls, and backfill everything from here back. And once that's complete, we will dig down the extra 4 feet here, get rid of this temporary ramp, and pour the footings, walls, and backfill this little front section at a second time. The second reason for installing these shoring walls was for safety for our workers. Since our new basement walls are so close to the existing houses, we had to protect them somehow because they could not work in a trench that is more than 4 feet deep. Because if that wall were to cave in on them, we would have all sorts of problems. So this acts as 2 items: protects the neighboring houses and all the workers that are building the basement.